National Guard members are in law.
Hurled through the windscreen.
Described as all hell breaking loose in Seattle when flames.
Law enforcement officers. He's also reinforcing that.
Capturing one
helicopter seen flying low.
You can see police here now firing.
In Seattle overnight, a face
Some protests turned into riots. In widespread destruction, large groups torch police cruisers.
Society has fallen. Humanity has crumbled. A virus or fungus or whatever has turned those that you love into hideous creatures. 20 years after society has fallen, what is needed for you to fend off the zombie invasion and save those that you love? It might not be as simple as you think. Hey guys, if you like what you see here, do me a solid, drop a like, drop a sub. I love shooting, I love movies and video games, and my goal with this channel is to try to bring them together in some way, shape, or form. Your main three priorities for surviving in this wasteland would be food, water, and then probably the most fun, security. Let's dive into it. Starting off with water. You need to realize that there's going to be no clean source of drinking water. Even clear water that you could find out in a stream or a lake is probably going to be filled with all sorts of nasty bugs and potentially nasty chemicals. Okay, so you're going to need about 1 gallon of water per day, probably more. Okay, when you consider bathing and cleaning and all sorts of stuff like that, right? You're going to use a little bit more water than you would think, right? Your only option at this point would be to filter your water using some sort of charcoal, sand, rock filter, or maybe even pre-filtering it with rags. Then what you would need to do is boil the water for a fair amount of time to make sure all the little bugs are all dead. Okay? Now, to boil this water, you're not going to have any jet boils or any propane canisters to use. So how are you going to purify this large amount of water when you don't have anything like a propane stove or a jet boiler? Well, you're going to have to use some sort of fire to boil this bad boy up. Now, I would say the most convenient way for you to boil this large amount of water would be to use some sort of twig stove. Now, I have a twig stove, and it actually works surprisingly well. But if you find yourself in a zombie survival-like situation, and you can't go to Amazon to order a twig stove, you can actually make one yourself. You can cut a hole in the center of it, and then a hole on the top of the tin can, and you can feed sticks in. I'll throw a picture up. I'm sure it'll make more sense. But the stove that I have is small, and it actually works really, really well. I like this stove because you have an infinite amount of fuel you can use. If you have sticks, you can make fire. So it's a match made in heaven. When it comes to getting food in this wasteland environment, unfortunately, you won't have any Aldi to get those low prices.
Aldi, if you're watching this, please sponsor this channel.
So your best bet in this environment would be to stockpile any non-perishable foods and collect those for a rainy day. This would be things like canned goods, maybe some backpacking meals, some beans, pasta, things of that nature that would last for a long time on a shelf life, if you can find them. I would say the bulk of your food should come through gardening and or hunting. Get yourself a few raised garden beds or a large plot of land and get those crops growing. I'll be honest, I know nothing about gardening, okay? Your other source of food would have to come through some sort of hunting. This could either be small game or any medium-sized game like deer or anything like that, really. Now, when it comes to this, I would stick to what the bushcrafting channels on YouTube always talk about, and that would be making some sort of pemmican or some sort of jerky to preserve the meat. Okay, you're not going to have a deep freeze or refrigerator, and you're going to have a large amount of meat on your hand if you take down a deer. So, how do you keep this meat from spoiling? Well, that would be to preserve it either through smoking the meat or through making some sort of jerky. Next up, the coolest part of the video, probably for most of us, right? Yeah, it would be pretty awesome to have some sort of belt-fed M249 and a Dirty Harry 44 Magnum revolver.
Let me go!
But I don't really think that would fit well for this universe and what you want to get accomplished in this zombie setting. As lame as it sounds, your most boring cartridges with your most boring rifle would be your best bet. I'm talking 5.56, 308, 22 long rifle, 9mm, things of that nature. That way you could stockpile your ammunition and have a lot of options with the firearms that you use. Now, if you have your choice, I would love to go with some sort of semi-automatic 5.56 rifle and some sort of semi-automatic 9mm handgun. You can pick your poison. Depending on where you live, things may be harder for you to find, but something like this would be a great choice. Now, depending on where you live, it may be hard for you to find a semi-automatic rifle of any kind, but having a gun with some ammunition is better than nothing. There are tons of bolt-action rifles out there in rural areas for hunting purposes that would be a good enough job. If you can't get your hands on some more capable and versatile rifles, a bolt-action would be okay. Another thing you may keep in mind in this environment is to get some sort of shotgun. The reason I say this is because most people that have guns but aren't into firearms probably own some type of shotgun. And they probably have a box or two of shells lying around, and you would have a pretty versatile load that you could get.
You're